Tell us a little bit about your passion for writing. How did it start?
Okay, in my case, I started with books. So I was writing for like what 6 years before I actually got a literary agent in the US. So I am actually represented by Trisha Lawrence from Erin Murphy Literary Agency. And right now, my books are out with editors. But traditional publishing, very, very slow process. So yeah, so it started off with books, and then I was interested in script writing. But script writing is so different from books. You really need to learn how to, there's a proper format, and yeah, it's very different. So it was quite coincidental. I was thinking about script writing, but I was like, it's too, I don't know how to join the course and things like that. But when I was in the taxi, I heard about the SGUS script writing course, and I was like, okay, yeah, that must be the sign from the universe. So I decided, yeah, to try that out.
Okay. Now, writing for books is it's completely different from writing for a medium like film and TV
Yeah.
or even online content, right? So tell us a little bit about the differences and what some of the struggles is since you're already a writer writing for books, right? So how was the transition like?
Um, okay, so firstly, the biggest transition was actually understanding that there is like a software that you have to use. It was quite funny because when we all started, we kept asking whether can we just use Microsoft Word, because most of us didn't even have the software. But the lecturers were very kind and they gave us a few options. Like I think I used Fade if I'm not mistaken. So that was the first challenge. The second was understanding that books is different. You can write about the character's thoughts, the feelings, but when you write for film, all that is useless because the director can't translate that into film. So actually, I really understood script writing a lot better when I started trying to use my scripts to shoot short films. And then I realized, oh, okay, now I understand why my lecturer said, yeah, you can't do that, it doesn't translate to film. So the biggest challenge was, I would say, understanding that film is a visual medium. Whatever you write on paper has to translate that way. So, yeah.
You touched on a very good point, which I want to follow up a little bit on, right? So now
Okay.
the difference between okay, I shouldn't call them paper writers. It sounds a little bit terrible, but the difference between print writers and script writers, one of the main differences is to be able to tell a story without words. So in other words, what you're writing visually. You are giving, you are writing in a very visual manner, and even emotions and thoughts uh, need to be communicated in a very visual manner, right?
Yes.
So that is one of the differences. So I want to just quickly touch on that and tell us a little bit more of the kind of genre that you feel strong in, and also tie that back into when you were writing books and writing for a visual medium. What were some of the differences? What are some of the
Ah,
frustrations?
frustrations which I experienced when I was trying to do script writing or for books or the different frustrations for the
Okay,
different.
the frustrations when you were trying to write for a visual medium like a short
Uh,
film, right? But you inevitably keep going back onto your old habits of being a print writer or a published writer, right?
right.
So what are some of the frustrations?
Okay, so firstly, I had to understand that. Uh, okay, so this is something I learned from a script writing Facebook group as well. A book is a finished product. You can write whatever you want in a book. You can have dragons, you can have zombies, you can have, I don't know, flying skeletons. But if you put all that in a script, you have to bear in mind that either you are going to actually film it or someone else is going to do it. So the biggest challenge I face is budget. If you're going to write all that, because my genre is more on like horror and dark fantasy, it works very well in a book because you can write anything you want, not so in a script. I mean, yes, you could do it, but you must always understand that that itself becomes, an issue when people want to consider buying your script or something. So that was one challenge. The second is, of course, to train my brain to say that stop writing thoughts and feelings. Thoughts and feelings are really important in a book because the book doesn't have any. You're not watching a movie. You need to get the reader invested in your character. So the only way you can do that is get them into the head of the character. which you cannot do in a film. So yeah, so it took a bit because every time I wrote, I had to read back the script and like, yeah, but can the audience see this? No, the audience can't see this. So no. Yeah, so those are the two things which it was quite frustrating actually because I felt very hampered. Like a lot of the things that I want to write, I cannot write in a script. So I told myself, it's okay if you can't do that in a script, do it in a book. What you can't do in a book though, you can do in a script. So that is also, yeah, that's that. Good and bad.
Now that you have a perspective of being a print writer versus a script writer, right? Um, with that lens that you now have, right? Tell us your thoughts in terms of films or TV that are actually based on a novel. You can now imagine the process, right? We have the novel, right? Say, for example,
Yeah.
a very famous one would be J.K. Rowling, right? So
Mm.
he's written books, all the thoughts and all the emotions, the love story between Harry Potter and the girl and whatever. Those didn't come out. Those came out in the film those were interpreted in the film with uh interested glances, certain
Mm.
situations. You have to create a very visual situation for the romance to be portrayed because you cannot express unless you write in a medium where it is a narration of the main character. Then it's possible for you to introduce feelings, right? But this is just a technique that, you know, but tell us what you, with that lens, now that you can wear dual hats, right? Tell us tell us what are some of the films that you feel if you were a writer would be a challenge, or what some of your favorite films are that are adapted from novels, if any.
There's I think a lot recently. There's a lot of books that have been adapted from novels. I think the biggest challenge is a novel has a lot of information, a lot of background, a lot of stuff, which if you want to translate into film, right, it's quite difficult. And I think this is where the problem comes. Like a lot of popular, I think a lot like the series like I mean, there's something called The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas that was made into a film. A lot of series like The Hunger Games was also books. I think literally every book which has been popular has been made into like films. But the issue always is the fans of the book will be like, no, you've missed out all this. You completely, you've not done a good job. So the interesting thing is when I just used to be a writer of the book, I'd be like, oh my God, how can you do this? And then when I started learning script writing, I realized, wow, it's very difficult because what works in the book will not work in the film. So this is something that you need to, yeah, bear in mind. And I think I would say that one of the things I've realized is, I mean, if ever my book ever gets made into a film, which is great, is like, yeah, I cannot expect the story to be exactly, yeah, the core of the story will be the same, but the presentation will be different. You cannot, you can't, yeah. So there's some I mean, I can't think of any book that was made into film that everybody was 100% happy about it. I mean, if you think about it, even films that were like remade had criticisms. So what more books, right? Yeah, that's just my
Okay.
take.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next question is, what are you currently doing with your
Uh,
your your skills in writing, and then what are the plans for the future? What do you hope to do?
Okay, so currently I was actually quite this I got through the program actually the through the SGUS course. I'm actually working on a documentary for the Surya channel. So one of the lecturers, so basically how this is there is a program called Siapa Jaga Ma, which means who looks after Ma, and I think it was quite popular in the Surya channel. So they're coming up with season 2. So what they needed was to do a docu-series on caregivers. So I was actually quite excited because one of the other students from the course, I think she was contacted by the lecturer, uh, Janet Janet Liu, Janet Liao, yes, and they were looking for another co-researcher. So I asked and I applied and I asked would that be possible, because she was our lecturer for documentary. So I think she's got a really good memory. She remembers the stuff that we did. So I got the opportunity and I'm currently working on that. So what we are doing right now is really okay. So documentary is so different from short films. again. So we have to find families, and we're doing interviews, and we're writing pre-shoot scripts. So I'm really excited about this opportunity. So this is something I'm working on. I'm hoping in the future, if this takes off well, that I will get more opportunities along this line. That, and of course, I will definitely continue writing my books. That's for sure, and I will definitely continue making short films because I'm actually quite interested in that. It's quite interesting.
Okay, you have quite a little bit on your plate because as a writer, you're writing for print medium, you're writing for a genre that a genre that we call fiction, right? Or narrative for that matter. And then you're writing for a documentary. Documentaries are very difficult to write because documentaries need to be visually led.
Yeah.
A screenwriter can write the framework, and then if the crew goes out and comes back with a certain amount of footage that is very different, right? So how do you then rewrite the thing? And it's factual writing, right? Which is another genre by itself. Okay, good to hear and good to see that you are so passionate about writing because writers, there is a severe lack of good writers, right? So, okay. The other thing as well I wanted to ask is, tell us your sentiments about the media industry, right? Through the program, you've gone into the media industry. And how has your journey been so far? Is it as difficult? Is it as tough? Is it as unstable, according to many people?
One thing I realized is there is a lot of support, I feel. Okay, I mean, this is just my interpretation. I don't know whether people would take it the same way. I remember that when I first started writing books, which was, wow, a long time back, 2012, 2013, there really wasn't much help I could get for writing when it comes to books. But slowly over the years, it trickled down. But when I started doing this course, I realized that there's a lot of initiatives. Um, I was just like there was another student in my group as well, Philip, and he was telling me that oh they have this, you can actually try auditioning for this. I feel like there is a lot of help available, and I think that if you actually interested, it's quite, I wouldn't say easy, but you have support. Definitely you have support. I don't know about the financial part of it. Yes, everyone says that media is quite tough to but from what I can see, there seems to be a demand as well. I don't know about script writers, but I can see for the actual filmmaking that there is a real demand, because I think there seems to be a shortage of skilled people to do it, or maybe just not enough. I don't know. Yeah. So I feel like there's enough support. There definitely seems to be an interest in Singapore to cultivate and grow the media industry. So yeah, I feel like that's my opinion. So
Now that we're talking about script writing, I'm going to share a short story. Right? In some universities that train script writers, they believe that script writers need to also understand the filmmaking process, the production process, right? And also some even teach storyboarding, right? So this is to lend support into training writers who are very visually read. In fact, some of the top universities in the world where they train directors, they are actually writer directors. So they start with the script and then they go into directing, which is the other way around, right? Some will then train them in writing first and then throw them into the film production process or the TV production process. So the writers become more visual writers, which is something we spoke about, right? There's a difference. I can write UFOs, I can write Mother Teresa, I can revive Queen Elizabeth on a book, but when I come to production, it's going to be a production nightmare, right? So
yeah,
this is the reality to production, and also this is budget, as you have mentioned, and also feasibility in terms of production, right? I can write 20 sunset scenes, but the director will go crazy because to shoot a sunset is only like 2 hours or 1 hour at most, right? So having said all of that, do you see yourself continuing to learn other aspects of production so that you are able to become a better writer? What is your lifelong journey like? Lifelong learning journey.
my current goal would be to, at some point, be able to make an independent feature film. I mean, short films are fairly, at the moment, quite easy to do in the sense that because I found this group, this Kino Red Dot, which are all amateur filmmakers. So it's amazing because when I started off, I was just a scriptwriter. I didn't know how to do anything. And all of them come together and be like, no, it's okay, we have different skills, we will work together and we will do it. And along the way, I learned many things. I picked up editing, how to edit a film and what softwares to use. Cameras are a little bit tricky because I would have to actually own one to properly use one, but I've learned certain aspects of, yeah, how, what cameras, what kind of things. Like you said, storyboarding, short list, all this stuff I picked up from that group. So yeah, that would be my goal. I hope at one point I can do it, although a feature is going to be a lot more complicated than a short film. So yes, so my lifelong learning journey would be definitely to continue learning the other aspects of filmmaking, which I honestly believe helps with the script writing. Because today, if you ask me to write a script, I could do it very fast because of the short films that I've made and the other short films that I've helped out with in that group. So it helps definitely to learn the other aspects. But again, I guess the question is, what do people feel is their strength? Because many writers, when they come in, like even me, for example, when I came in, I was like, no, I can't handle filmmaking. It's too technical for me. So yeah, I would say that you would always be very good at one thing, but film is a collaborative effort. If you can learn other aspects, it would definitely make your script, good, much better and easier to be picked up.